Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Autocruise Starfire. You'll notice that around the vehicle it will say Marquis. This was a Marquis special from when it was sort of built new, hence why it says Marquis, but it is just an auto sleeper Starfire. So what I tend to do on these videos is I'll start under the bonnet and then I'll work my way around the outside and then I'll show you on the inside after that. So under the bonnet, we've got all of your sort of consumable or, reservoirs and things like that over here on the left-hand side. So on the top just here, we've got your washer fluid, power steering fluid, engine coolant, and brake fluid from this one just here. Just below that, we have got your engine oil filling point. So you can take that one off just there and see nice colour on the engine oil. It has had a service, so that has been replaced. Just in front down here, we've got your engine oil dipstick, which is this little yellow capped pulley just here. And so that's how you would gauge the level of the engine oil. Air filter sits inside this little box just down here. And because we're on the newer style chassis here, the engine battery itself sits under the floor inside the cab. So if you ever needed to jump start the van on the side of the road, then you've got a positive terminal just here underneath this little cover. All right, so that's a positive terminal for your engine battery. And then you've got this little thing here. If you undo this, this will give you access to the negative terminal. So this is your earthing point for jump starting the van. Good practice to put this back on because it stops it from getting a bit rusty. So that is about it really for under the bonnet. Nice and straightforward. Inside the passenger door, we've got the bonnet release handle just there. All right, so that's how you would release the bonnet. And then just behind the passenger door, we've got your diesel filling point. So, next thing we get to on the near side here is this sort of storage locker. So in this little locker itself, we have got a couple of bits that the previous owner has left behind. So you've got some leveling chocks just there, which you can use if you want to. And you've got various different options of how to fill the water up. So I'll explain to you in a bit more detail when we get to this part just here. But basically, the way that you have to fill the water tank up in this van is that you have to put it through these little filling points here. So if you've got an external rollaway tank or, a aqua roll or whatever you want to call it, then you can use this one here. So this plugs into the side of the van, and then the other side of it is this pump. So basically the pump will just sit down into your rollaway tank and it will suck the water through and into the vehicle. If you've got access to a hose point, then you can use this one here. So you plug it into the side of the van, but on the other side of it is a hose fitting. So you would plug your hose into there. Okay. The other one, this is for an external shower point, I believe, but I'm not sure that it's actually possible to use that one. I have to double check on that one, but I don't think you can. But yeah, so basically these are the two options that you've got for filling up the fresh tank, either with a hose point with this one or a rollaway tank with this one. So they are the options. So you do need to fill that water tank up, obviously, before you can draw any water through on the inside. Next thing we get to is your external hookup point. So if you have access to a hookup cable, it's really handy to have that plugged in. It essentially means that you'll be able to use any of your mains powered sockets and appliances. It also means that your battery charger will spring to life so that your leisure battery will be fully charged all the time. In this particular case with this particular van, you have actually got twin AGM batteries and also a nice big solar panel on the roof. So you don't have to worry too much about charging up the leisure battery because you've already got lots of power coming in from the solar panel and two big batteries anyway. But it is always good practice because when your hookup's plugged in, you don't have to worry about the voltage at all because it will be at maximum. So just pointing that out to you there. Next door to that is our water point. So with these ultra-flow systems, you have actually got a filter behind this little cover just here. So when you unscrew this, you'll then have access to the filter. So Below that, this one just here is your one that you need to plug in to fill up the tank with either of those points that I was just showing you in there. And then next door to that is the shower point. So if that is connected, just having a little look, I think it might be actually, you take this little cover off just here and you'll be able to use an external shower point there as well. So we've got your awning light just here. Okay, so there is a switch for that on the inside. These two vents just here behind the habitation door, don't worry about the mess, it's just because I've been doing a few bits with it on the hab check. These are both to do with the fridge. Okay, so basically you don't need to get into here for any reason other than if you've got a problem with something. When I was doing the hab check, I found that this little ignition box was sort of playing up, so I've put a new one in there and now it's working fine. So that's all I've done in there. So yeah, that's just the back of the fridge. If you've got the fridge lit up on gas, you should feel warm air coming out through this little top vent here. So that can just be a way of double checking that it's definitely working properly, putting your hand over there and feeling the warmth coming out from there. On the hab door, you've got a window, so you can undo this, top and bottom, and then that will allow you to have the window completely open, which you do also have blackout screens and fly screen from the top. So closing that one back up. The step is electronic and works with this little switch just here. So that is working very nicely. And I think the awning light, yeah, there you go. Is that little switch just there. So you've got a Fiamma security lock just here. So basically to use this, you can use it either as a security lock going across the door, or it sort of doubles up as a handle to help you get in as well. So I can't really do this with one hand. Let me just use my other hand for a second. So you can put it around and it will lock in this position here. And these are really, really strong, so you can use that to help you get in. So that is what that is just there. You can lock that up as well. You have got a little small key to go in there to lock it up in position, so you can have it going across the door as added security. At the back of the van, we've got your tow, well, there's no actual tow eye itself down there. So if you wanted to fit that, then you can, but this is basically a tow bar extension. You got your reversing camera up here as well, and obviously your centre brake light is the one just there in the middle. Not much else to show you on the back of the van. So on the off side of the van, there's not, well, I suppose there is a few bits to show you. I'll just point out to you this down here. So we've got your wastewater drain off point. So when you want to drain out the waste tank, you need to get to this point just here. You've got open and close on that actual valve there. So obviously you want to have that in the open position when you want to drain it out. But because it kind of, you'll see there, where it comes from the tank, it comes from the bottom of the tank, and then the pipe goes up a little bit. So you'll find that, I'm not going to do it in here because we're sort of inside, but when you drop this down, it won't actually allow anything to come out unless you pull it down from here as well. So the pipe has to be lower, or facing down basically, from the position that it comes out of the tank, otherwise it won't actually flow out. It's a bit like a U-bend, I suppose, in the way it works. So make sure that, an awkward one with one hand, make sure that you have that pulled all the way down out of all three of these hooks, otherwise it won't come out properly at all. So, the toilet cassette locker, if I hadn't locked it up, where have I put the keys? Hold on a second. If I left the keys in the front, if I have, then I'll just carry on for a moment. Yeah, got the keys just here. Right, sorry about that. So, toilet cassette locker is this next one just here. So this is this sort of square shaped locker here. And the majority of the lockers around the van are all opened by using this same key. Okay, so you see when I put the key in, twist it whichever way it will go, and take the key out. So that's now unlocked. When I push the button in, whilst pressing on the top button here as well, I'll then be able to open up the locker. So the toilet cassette itself, this is an industry standard Thetford toilet cassette. So to remove it, you lift up on the little yellow tab down here at the bottom and pull the cassette towards you. You'll then be able to take the cassette all the way out and walk it to wherever you need to go. So to empty it out, twist this little thing round here and open it by just literally twisting it off. When you're draining it out, you need to hold down the little yellow button at the back, and that will just basically allow a little bit of pressure to be released rather than it splashing all over you, which obviously you don't want. Once you've emptied it out, when you take this cap off, you'll notice that it kind of doubles up as a thing to measure with as well. Okay, so you've got little measurements on there. Now basically, if you get your blue fluid, which is what needs to go inside the cassette, and fill that cap up and pour it back in, that's enough to get you by with this size of cassette. So 1 cap's worth of blue fluid goes back inside, give it a little swish around, and then push it all the way back home. Make sure that you go over that little lip so you hear that little click noise, like that, and that'll then be ready to use again. You haven't got any flush fluid to worry about because it does come directly from the fresh tank. So that also means that you will have to have at least a little bit of fresh water in the tank in order to flush the toilet. So just bear that in mind as well. So the gas locker. So you have got space in here for 2 6-kilo propane bottles. That's the maximum size that you can have. I've left this one in here. I know it's a little bit smaller, but it is completely full. So I thought I'd leave it in here so that you've got a full gas bottle in there. So to turn the gas bottle on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, like so. And to turn it off, we go all the way down clockwise round to the right. You haven't got to go really tight with those. You just literally give it a little nip up and then that'll be the gas completely off. Now, obviously, turning the gas bottle off inside the locker here is the best way to isolate the gas from the van. So isolating it from here, isolates it from the outside and stops any gas going into the van inside. So you have to make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving. That's really important. The last thing you want is 30 millibars of propane pumping into the van if you do have a crash. So please make sure that you turn that off. But for the most part, anti-clockwise turn it on, clockwise turn it off. The pigtail hose that you've got here, if I can have a little look-see. What year have we got? God, I can't see it. It's been put on at a bit of a funny angle. 2021, so you've got till 26 to replace that. Okay, so you've got a year on that one. Unless, I think it does actually say on here that it's a 10-year hose. Replaced before 2031, so because it's a Truma hose there. Keep your eye on it because you are the sort of industry recommendation is that you do it every 5 years, but it does say on there replace in 10 years. So keep your eye on that hose and see how you go with it. So the regulator itself at the back, you haven't got to do anything with that. That's what you call a bulkhead regulator. That will just regulate the amount of gas that comes from the bottle and it goes into the van. We've got a testing point just here. That's for us when we're doing our testing. And this little thing here is a valve to isolate from the van. So don't have to worry about any of that. You just literally turn the bottle on and off when you need to. Previous owner has actually left this nice gas spanner in here as well. Okay, so it's a proper sized gas spanner. So you can use that to switch between bottles from there. So the last thing on the outside of the van is this just here, which is your boiler vent. Now on the boiler vent itself, you've got this cover. Okay, so you need to make sure that you put this cover back on if you're not going to be using the van for a little while, because it kind of basically stops any bugs from getting in and causing any damage. But essentially, if you want to double check that the boiler is definitely on, you can put your hand on either side of this and feel the warm air coming out from there. Right, so I'll just pull myself back a little bit. So in the actual cab itself, got a nice spec really. So you've got all the bits and pieces that you'd like to have really. Because it's on the Peugeot, you do get the steering wheel controls. Okay, so you got the all the corresponding steering wheel controls. You have got over on the right hand side, you've got your mirror adjustments. So you just basically choose which mirror you want to move and then move it around like a little joystick like so. You've then got your electric windows just there. These switches just down here are all basically to do with the screen up on the dash there. So you can go through and change the different things on there. These two are your headlight adjustments, so you can change how the headlight aims. If you're towing something, sometimes you have to bring it down a little bit because your front of the van's lifted up. You've got the washers and wipers on the right hand side, lights and indicators on the left. You've also got a secondary stalk down here on the left hand side, so this is your cruise control stalk. Okay, so you can use that if you want to. The reversing camera screen is this one just up here, and then below that we've got all of your sort of standard bits and pieces. So this is all of your heater controls. These are very, very simple. I very rarely actually explain those because they're so easy. You can lock and unlock the cab from inside just here with these two buttons. You've got your hazard warning lights, fog lamp, and don't worry about this switch over here because the original heated rear window is not here anymore because it's a motorhome now, so that is not relevant at all. So I will just spin myself around. Both of these front seats do swivel round, by the way. Literally as easy as lifting up this little thing here and pulling the seat around. Same goes for this one. Easy as that. It takes 1 second to pull that around. So what I tend to do is I'll just sort of briefly show you the layout. Now this is quite a standard layout in here, so because it's such a short vehicle, it's under 6 meters, you don't get a huge amount of choice in layout because it's such a short vehicle. But these being the Autocruise Starfire, you don't, they don't sort of even though it is a smaller van, you still get all of the goodies that you might come to expect to have on any size vehicle. So I personally love these vehicles and always have done. So 2 side settees basically in the front. To make the bed up, you quite literally pull them together and then pull the seats, cushions together. And then you've got your nice big double bed. It's a 6-foot bed, or at least 6 foot, and super, super comfortable. You've got absolutely loads of storage throughout the vehicle as well. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but that is a really deep locker. So you've got loads of space in there. Put the light on so you can see a bit better. Super clean in there as well. That's the other thing that I've noticed about this particular van is how clean everything is. Not just in the sense of, hygienically clean, if you know what I mean, but there's no marks on anything, there's no damage to anything. It's absolutely lovely throughout. The vehicle's sold, but I'm just, I'm not trying to sell it, I'm just sort of saying it's sort of unbelievably good throughout. So what I'll do is I'll sort of start with the control panel here. These Autocruise control panels can take a little bit of getting used to, but once you have got to grips with them, they are super easy. So what I will do is I'll turn it off. So I'm going to press and hold on the off button here, and that's how you would turn it off. It does make that funny noise, they all do that. So we want to turn it on, same goes. So just basically press it again and hold it for a few seconds and then let go. And what it will do is it will go through, check the system, update a few bits and pieces. 12 devices found, updating button lights, and then you're back to your home screen. So you can't change anything on here when you're on the home screen. Okay, so don't worry about these ones just down here. Basically, you have got, it's very straightforward, but you've got various little different buttons over here. So when you press on this little button down here on the bottom right, you've got your water levels. So press on that one, and it shows us fresh water at the top, so nearly empty on the fresh, and the wastewater is okay, doesn't need emptying. Water pump, turn the water pump on and it pressurizes itself. There's no leaks in this van whatsoever because the water pump wouldn't pressurize itself if there was. This one just here is for if the solar panel that was fitted on the roof, there is a solar panel on the roof, but if it was fitted and wired into the original power supply unit, or basically if this had a solar panel from the factory, then you'd be able to see the amount of amps that come in from the panel. Because this wasn't wired in from factory, and it's got, I can't remember, oh there you go, yeah, solar controller is just in the wardrobe up here. You haven't got to do anything with that. All right, but I'm just pointing that out to you on this sort of same topic. Because it wasn't fitted from Autocruise, you don't get to see it on the control panel there, but it's not really a problem. The next one here that says battery info. When you press on that, it will tell you, it will sort of estimate how long you've got to use the leisure battery before it will go flat. So you can see 63 hours if you're, you know, using the van exactly as we are now, where there's no hookup plugged in, there's no solar power coming in because we're inside, and all that. It's recommending that it's going to be about 60 hours or so with all of these lights on. Okay, so for the age of the vehicle, it's a really clever little bit of kit. The next one up that has the little amp meter or ammeter, you can see there how many amps are either being drawn or put in. So we're drawing 2.8 amps from the leisure battery. Now, if we had the hookup cable plugged in, that would say plus 13 amps or something around that sort of level. And that's because it's putting in more power than it's being drawn. So if it says minus, there's more power being drawn. If it says plus, there's more power being put in. The next one shows us the battery voltages. So we've got engine battery at the top, 12.5, that's perfect. And then leisure battery there, 12.6, also perfect. They are both very good battery voltages. It's only when you start going below about 11 volts that it starts to get a little bit iffy. This particular vehicle, I can't imagine you'll ever see that sort of number because you've got the solar panel on the roof. Now, I personally know from having the van here for a couple of weeks, that solar panel works unbelievably well. When you're outside on a nice sunny day, you're going to be nearly at 14 volts, which is a sort of charging battery voltage. So yeah, absolutely perfect on that front. Lights. So basically, some of the lights will already work, but some of the lights will need that light switch turned on the control panel. So I've noticed that light there needs to have the switch turned on. Okay, but some of them don't. So these little spotlights don't. But again, that's just something that you'll go through and you'll work out for yourself. Clock, so you can click on that one there and then basically change the time if you want to, but yeah. So that is the control panel, nice and easy, not really much else to it than that. So it says energy management system, that's an EMS system. So the rest of the EMS, or the power supply unit if you want to call it that, is down here behind this driver's seat if you ever needed to get a hold of any of that. Fingers crossed you won't have any problems with it, so you shouldn't have to. But I'm just pointing out to you that that's where all of that EMS system sits. So, what I will do, just try and ignore my little bits here that I've got from doing the hab check. So what I'll do is I'll start on the kitchen area and then I'll work my way through the rest of the van. So when it comes to the water, this is something that is really important to sort of understand. So the water system in a motorhome works in, basically the way it works is that you've got a fresh tank, which is under the floor. You've then got the cold water system and the hot water system. So the cold water system quite literally just gets drawn through the pump from the tank straight to the tap. So if you're on the cold side of the tap, on any of the taps, it's just drawing straight from the tank and going there. The hot side of the system is slightly different, where it has to run through the boiler first before it will get to the tap. So if the boiler isn't completely full, you will not get any water coming through the tap because it has to go through the boiler first, and it won't go through unless it's full. So because we know the boiler is down here, just going by the outside, there will be a little drain off point, which is, it's a bit dark, but your little yellow tab down there is the boiler drain off point. So basically, if you want to drain the boiler out, you need to lift the little tab so it's facing the camera right now, so it's facing upright. And if you want to keep the water inside the boiler, you leave it where it is now, laying down flat. So basically, if you want to winterize the van, you lift it up and that will drain out all the water. And if you want to use it, you leave it laying down flat. So because the boiler hasn't got its own level indicator, so you can't actually see by pressing a button somewhere how much water is inside the boiler. The only way to check is to quite literally turn the water pump on, come to the tap, turn the tap to the hot side, which is where it is now, and lift the tap. So essentially, if there's any air in the system, or if there's, if the boiler isn't quite full, you'll get a little bit of air coming through the tap. It's just getting rid of a little bit of air there. Not much, but a little bit. So I'm happy with that because the water was coming through nice and clearly. It's not coughing and spluttering and going all over the place. So I know now that the boiler is full of water. Okay, as I said a minute ago, if the boiler wasn't completely full, then it would just cough and splutter and get everything a little bit wet, which is pretty normal. So the reason that that's so important, without trying to sort of bore you with it too much, is that when you go to use the boiler, when you want to get the water hot, you have to make sure that the boiler is full. If you try and get the water hot without checking that the boiler's full up, and if you try and get the water hot when the boiler's empty, you're going to run into some serious problems where you'll probably overheat the system and potentially have to buy a new boiler. So you don't want to do that. So just making sure that the water's coming through the tap on the hot side and making sure that your boiler drain is laying down flat is just double checking that the boiler's full, and that's all you need to do. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and use the boiler however you want to. It will keep filling itself up as it needs to, but just double checking that first before you go ahead and use the van for however long is just really important. So the cooker, so you've got what I would call like a range cooker here, where you've got the full-sized burners on the top, a grill and an oven underneath. So you have got, because it's a British built vehicle, you've got the option of 3 burners and the electric ring on the top as well. So this won't work unless the electric hookup is plugged in. When the hookup is plugged in, you'll get a little red light here come on when that burner or when the hot plate is on. The rest of them have got their own ignition. Okay, so that ignition is just from this little switch just here. And that goes for the grill and the oven there as well. On the right, we've got the grill here and the oven to the right. And to be honest, that's all I tend to explain on these because it's, pretty self-explanatory, the rest of it. Down in this lower cupboard here, we've got something quite important. So we've got your gas isolators. So basically, you don't have to worry about these whatsoever unless you think there's an issue with a specific appliance. So for example, let's just say you've used the cooker for a little bit, you've turned it all off, but you can still smell gas coming from the cooker. You can come into here and isolate the gas by doing that to each individual appliance. So we've got the cooker, the water heater, the fridge, and the space heater. So you can go through and individually isolate each appliance. Now you don't need to do that every time you get out of the vehicle. Turning the gas bottle off in the locker is the best way to isolate the gas from the outside. So that is just for if you get a specific problem with a specific appliance. I only say that because I've seen it too many times where people will come in and they've isolated all of the isolators, but it doesn't make any sense. If you turn the bottle off from outside, it's all isolated anyway, so much easier to do that and much safer actually as well. So I'll just carry on in the sort of direction that we're already going in. So in the bathroom itself, you've got a pull cord just here and you've got loads of really bright lights in this one. So with this particular layout, which is super clever in my opinion, you've got what looks like a really big shower unit, and it is a really big shower unit, and your sink just here and your toilet just here. Now what a lot of people don't realise is that you've got a little thing up here which when you pull this off, it will allow you to pull this entire unit around like so. Okay, and that's on a little gas strut there. Now once you've done that, you can then pull this one over as well, and then you've got your proper waterproof shower unit, which by the way for a small motorhome like this is absolutely massive. This is the sort of size of shower you come to expect in a big motorhome. So that being there like that is very, very nice. So just lock that back up. So basically, you've got the shower fitting just there, okay, which comes down from there and doubles up as the hose for the sink, okay. So when you want to use the sink, you will have to use that shower fitting into here. All right, but that's the same with most motorhomes, really. You've got the skylight up here, which you just pull back down again like that when you're not using. And then the toilet is normally the only part that I actually spend any time explaining, because the rest of it's just literally hot and cold tap. It's you know, you don't even need to explain that. So the toilet itself, as I mentioned earlier, you have got a freshwater flush. So you need to make sure that your water pump is turned on in order to flush the toilet. At the back just here, you've got a little blue button, which, as you'll see when I press it, pumps around the flush fluid into the bowl. Okay, to drain this out, you literally just pull on this little handle here on the left towards you, and that will drain whatever's inside the bowl here into the cassette. Make sure that you push that back like so, otherwise you will not be able to take the cassette out from outside. So I'll just turn the button off there as well, and the lights off. The only thing I would mention is that you have got halogen bulbs in a lot of the lights. So a lot of the spot lamps and the lights inside the bathroom are halogen bulbs, and they do draw quite a lot of power. Now, if you want to, in the future, you don't have to do this by any means, but if you wanted to switch them out for LEDs, it does make quite a big difference. Well, it makes a huge difference actually, because LEDs draw such a tiny amount of power in comparison to the halogen bulbs, and they're actually brighter as well. So a lot of customers are doing that now. They're switching over to the LED bulbs. These ones, not only do they get quite hot, but they just, as I say, they just draw quite a lot of power. So it's up to you, but something I would recommend for the future. Wardrobe here, you have actually got a locker inside the bathroom there that allows you access to the wardrobe, so you can get into there to your clothes and whatever whilst you're just in the bathroom there, which is quite nice. And the original fitted carpets are here as well. This brown folder in the locker here is all your paperwork, so that's just, you know, loads of previous owner bits and pieces, and all of the paperwork for every appliance in the van is in there as well. So when it comes to the heating, you've got what's called a Trumatic Ultra Heat. So Trumatic is just Truma, basically. That's just the brand of the heater, and this is an ultra heat system. So on the left hand side of these, you have got, well, not on all of these, but on the higher spec ones like this, you've got the fan setting. So basically you've got a 1 to 5 gauge there, which is just the fan speed. So you just select what fan speed you want, and then when you want to turn the fan on, press it once to the left. So you won't be able to hear it, but I can feel warm air, or not warm air, sorry, but just air basically coming out through these little vents now. Okay, you can change the speed just by doing that with the valve, not the valve, the selector, and then you can just hit, you know, you probably hear it now. But you've got a little fan at the back of the system there, the little circular part there, which just draws the heat from the heater and pumps it around evenly through the vents. Turn it back to the middle to turn the fan off. So, to turn the actual heating on, you can turn this little thing round here, the gas valve round, to about 2 or 3. You've then got a piezo igniter, which is a bit noisy, but if you're on a campsite, that's what you're going to be hearing in the mornings. It's quite normal. So basically you press down on here whilst pressing on the piezo ignition. So I'll do that now, and then have a little look in there. You can see first click, we've got a gas flame on the pilot. So I'm going to hold that down now just for a few seconds, just to allow the pilot flame to warm up. And then basically what I'm going to do is I've let go of that now, so the pilot's on. Okay, so it's still on. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this valve around to about 6 or 7. So if you watch what happens when I do that. you can see now main flame has kicked in on the other side as well. And in person, you can actually hear the difference just to make sure that it's definitely working properly. But that is how you would use the heater. You just light it up on the pilot, allow the pilot to warm that chamber up a little bit, and then turn it around to sort of whatever number you want, basically. If it's a bit of a warmer day, it will take a higher number to get the heating to come on. But at the same time, if it's a warmer day, you shouldn't be using it. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory on that one. But that's how you would light it up on the right, and that's how you would use the fan on the left. Turn it all the way back around to 0 until you can't go any further, and then just double check that your flame's definitely gone out, which it has, and that's how you would use the heater. Right, behind us we have got your full-size table inside here, so you can just pull that out from there. That's your full-size standalone table, which will basically just sit between the two seats just here. The fridge is a Dometic 3-way fridge, so as you can imagine, works 3 different ways. So you've got the options on the fridge. You've got gas at the top, electric hookup in the middle, and 12-volt electric at the bottom. Now, first things first, the 12-volt electric will not do anything at all unless the engine is running. Okay, so you can see there's no light on there at all. That's because there's no power going to it, because the engine isn't running. Now, the reason I go through a little bit of an explanation on this is because it is a bit of a confusing design. So the 12-volt electric, you might just think, okay, well, I'll use it on 12-volt for a while and turn it there. It only works when the engine's running. It runs from the engine itself, okay? So the only reason that they give you this option is to keep the fridge cold whilst you're driving. So you need to make sure that you pre-cool the fridge either on the gas or on the mains electric before you leave, and then switch over to 12-volt just for when you're driving. So then when you get to wherever you're going, switch back to one of the other two again to allow the fridge to carry on getting cold. So if you're like me, and at the moment I haven't got the hookup cable plugged in, but I do have the gas turned on, I would turn the little valve around here once to the right. And as you probably heard on the video there, the gas will light itself up and the little amber light there will just stay on. Okay, now that will just basically do its thing until it gets to the desired temperature, which you can select over here. Okay, so that's how we'd use it on the gas. If you had the hookup plugged in, you would select the next one over there, the middle one, and that would just literally start getting the fridge cold via the hookup cable. So it's as easy as that. You just select it and it'll start cooling down. Now every motorhome fridge is the same or very similar in this sense. The fridge will not get cold in half an hour. Okay, like a lot of customers will phone up and say, well, the fridge isn't getting cold, and they'll say they've left it for like half an hour or an hour. No, it won't get cold within that time. That's just how they work. It will take a good 3 or 4 hours to get these fridges completely cold. So if you are going to go on holiday, you need to make sure that you leave it for that amount of time before switching over to 12-volt. Otherwise, you're going to be quite disappointed when you get to where you're going and the fridge still isn't cold. So make sure that you pre-cool it properly within that sort of amount of time, or even overnight is ideal before you head off. So, yeah, there you go. So, probably the last thing to explain is going to be the boiler. So, if I just get down here properly. So, the boiler itself is powered by these two switches down here. Now, you've got the option on this one of using it on the gas, which is the little one here at the bottom, or mains electric, which is this switch here at the top. So if you're hooked up on the mains, you can quite literally press this button here. The red light will come on to tell you that it's definitely working. And after about half an hour to an hour's time, you'll have hot water running through the taps. All right, so it's as easy as that. The bottom one is how you would use it on the gas. So it's just as easy, but you basically switch round to the right and then select your temperature on the inside one here. Okay, so you've got 30 all the way through to 70, and that'll just determine how hot the water gets before it turns itself off. So as long as you get a little green light in there and it stays green, you don't get a little red light alongside it, the boiler is on and it's working perfectly. And same with this one, as long as the light stays on, the boiler's on the mains. And that is it. That is all there is to it. I'm just going to do one final thing, which is to, well, something I should have done before the video, really. Just take these bits off. And I will obviously explain why I'm doing this in a second. Okay, so under this seat here, we have also got the freshwater tank. So this is the fresh tank here, okay? Obviously the fresh tank because you've got loads of blue pipes going to the top of it. Now basically, the reason I'm showing you into this area here is because you've got another drain off point down here, which is your fresh drain. So if you wanted to drain out the fresh water tank, you can twist this little valve around here and it will just start drawing all of the water and draining it out through the floor basically. Other reason I'm showing you into this area here is because the reason that they put these water tanks here is because, well, two reasons really. If the worst comes to worst and you can't use that external filling point on the outside, the reason they give you a bit of access to the fresh tank is because you could, you know, realistically, you could use a watering can or something like that and just put it straight into the top of the tank there. So you've got really, really good and easy access to the top of the tank if, for whatever reason, that external socket to fill it up from didn't work. You can just go directly into the tank there. Also means, obviously, that you can get your hand in there and clean it out and stuff like that as well. But yeah, there we go. So I'll just screw that back on. It doesn't have to be too tight, by the way. A lot of people will go super, super tight on those and then you'll never be able to get them off. So yeah. And then the last thing is just that your water pump is here. So if you ever had any problems with the water pump, super, super easy to get to. And not that you should ever really need to know this, but on the top of the pump there, you've got this little center screw. Now, please don't mess about with it if there's nothing wrong with it, but that is your pressure switch screw. So basically that's the screw that will adjust the amount of pressure that the pump needs to be able to turn itself off. So if you ever needed to adjust that, that is the adjustment for that on the top. But other than that, that is about it. Sorry it's been a bit of a long video, but yeah, there's quite a lot to show you. So if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.